as Doctor in Medicine, Master of Science, Doctor in Medical Science at the University of Novi Sad. Currently, he is working as full professor of pharmacology, toxicology, and clinical pharmacology at the medical faculty. The scientific work is devoted to basic and clinical pharmacology, especially in preclinical studies and education in clinical pharmacology. He is a member of the section of clinical pharmacology of the Serbian Medical Association and the European Association for Clinical Pharmacology and Therapeutics. So please give a warm applause to our next speaker.
Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure to be today with you. And I would like to say that I'm speaking today about pre-approval access to drugs, like the only way to get new or investigational medicine out of clinical trials. As you can see on the slide, if we speak about special categories of patients which suffer from life-threatening, seriously debilitating or long-lasting diseases, if there are good possibilities to be treated in a good way, they are treated by good drugs, by good therapeutic options. But if there is a problem, if there is not a good therapeutic option for them, the only way to get drug for their disease is to be involved into clinical trials. But the problem can be in the fact that they must meet eligibility criteria to be treated by new or investigational drugs. So if there is not any possibility to get drug for the disease, the only way to be treated by any way is to be involved into pre-approval access program. And on this slide you can see that almost all European Union member states are involved into programs of pre-approval access. I told you that pre-approval access programs means the use of drugs which is not on the market, and the problem is that we administer preparation to the population of patients, but we don't know about their safety and efficiency profile, all data which could tell us about their safety and efficiency profile. So, particular aim of this pre-approval access is therapeutic. In comparison to conventional clinical trials, where the aim can be research or any other gain data which could be collected by conventional trials. European Medicines Agency today very strictly control this pre-approval access program by the Committee for Medical Products for Human Use, and based on these recommendations, only preparation from which is expected to help to the patients which suffer from serious diseases, only this preparation can be used in pre-approval access. But the rule is that the medicine must undergo clinical trials, and always when we think about the pre-approval program, we must consider about patients to be involved into clinical trials before they start with programs related to pre-approval trials. Today there are a lot of synonyms for pre-approval access to drugs in European Union. The most frequently used synonym for pre-approval access is compassionate use, while in the United States usually is used term expanded access, then early access, etc. But I would like to emphasize that both clinical trials and pre-approval access are ways which can give the drugs to the patient which need the therapy, but we are speaking about drugs which are not authorized for the use, which are not on the market. Historically, clinical trials were the only way to get investigational new medicine, and I would just remark about main rules related to clinical trials. First of all, drug cannot be administered in the population of human beings before trials in animals were done, were finished. The second very important rule related to conventional clinical trials tells us about data which collected after thalidomide disaster and after collecting data related to tetracycline's toxicity. So this rule tells us that only preparation, only drug which safety and efficiency in one population is tested and established fully can be administered in those population of patients. We know that, for example, today tetracyclines cannot be administered in population of children or cannot be administered during pregnancy, and that thalidomide was withdrawn from the market due to its teratogenic effect. The third very important rule sorry. Do you hear me? Can I speak? Okay. The third very important rule related to conventional clinical trials tells that drug cannot be investigated in children population before investigation in adults is finished. So there are some exceptions related to mentioned basic rules of conventional trials. Speaking about early phase of clinical trials, for example, first phase, which means initial safety trials on a new medicine, which the main aim is to investigate, to test dose regime which could be tolerated by healthy volunteers, but sometimes there are some exceptions. One, if investigational preparation is antiretroviral or if investigational drug is anti-cancer, in that situation, during early phases of clinical trials, we can involve patients, people who suffer from the disease on which investigational drug acts. And on this slide, you could see some representatives of preparation which during early phases of their investigation were administered to sick persons, even to children. You could see imatinib. Imatinib is a protein kinase inhibitor, very efficient preparation today in treatment of malignancy. But during early phase of imatinib, during first phase, you could see that children with malignancy were involved in the first phase to establish safety and efficiency of that very important anti-cancer drug. Another example of situation when children could be involved into early phases of clinical trial was story about drug efavirenz. Today this drug is standard antiretroviral therapy, but during its investigation it was administered to children which were HIV positive during early phases of clinical trials. We could say that pre-approval access is significantly quicker access to the therapy. It is shorter way for approval process, but the question is whether the risks are greater than benefit before we have great uncertainty because we don't have any data related to safety and efficiency of investigational drug. So I would like, what are the main differences? I would like to say what are the main differences, and I would like to compare conventional trials to pre-approval access programs. Pre-approval access are based on pivotal trials, which is not the situation for conventional clinical trials. That then you could see that pre-approval access characteristic of it is lack of randomization, then lack of double blinding and processing of control groups. Then speaking about pre-approval access, when we compare primary endpoints of conventional trials and in pre-approval access, primary endpoint in conventional trials can be overall survival or overall decreases in mortality, while in opposite, in pre-approval access programs, primary endpoints are surrogate markers. That's a very important difference between conventional trials and pre-approval access. So, for example, if we investigate lipid lowering substance in conventional trials, primary endpoint will be overall survival or overall decrease in cardiovascular mortality, while during the same drug which is in the program of pre-approval access, primary endpoint will be surrogate marker, like for example decrease in HDL cholesterol level or increase in HDL cholesterol. General criteria that must be met for pre-approval access are that potential benefit justifies potential risk, and that the risk of the program of pre-approval access is acceptable in the context of disease. Also, criteria for pre-approval access are related to the population of patients, and I told you that only patients that suffer from severe type of disease could be involved into pre-approval programs in situation when the good therapy options are not available. Another very important criteria that must be met for pre-approval access is approval from ethics committee. Without approval obtained from ethics committee cannot be start any pre-approval access. And finally, a sponsored company must provide information system between pre-approval process and regulatory agencies, system of information related to adverse events which could be seen during pre-approval access. On this slide, you could see how precisely, how accurately European Medicines Agency and their recommendation strictly defined target population. And conclusion is that only people who suffer from a really severe type of disease, and if they don't have any therapeutic option, they could be involved into this program of pre-approval access. For example, on this slide you could see some typical examples of pre-approval programs. In situation when we speak about Ebola virus infection, there was a situation that investigational drug monoclonal antibody was administered to 6 patients which were involved, which were infected by Ebola virus, and 4 of them improved their situation, their health, while in 2 situations there was something wrong. 2 of them died. On this slide, you could see another example of pre-approval access. In this situation, a 7-year-old boy suffered from adenoviral life-threatening infection, and standard therapy for adenoviral infection was stopped because of significant side effect which occurred due to significant nephrotoxicity. So parents of the boy asked the sponsor company to involve their son into a pre-approval program, but this request was denied, was refused, and only after aggressive social media campaign, this boy was involved into pre-approval access and was treated with a new preparation which finally helped to the boy. Another very important situation when pre-approval access can be good for clinical practice is that by this program we could find a subtype of population of patients which could good react on the new investigational preparation, and by this pre-approval access we could find population subtypes which could be efficiently treated by the new preparation. What are main benefits of that pre-approval access programs? First of all, pharmaceutical companies and physicians by pre-approval access provide possibility of patients to be treated with potentially life-saving drugs in ethical and compliant manner. And also pre-approval access provide insights of the wider use of the drug, and also provide possibility to treat patients out of price. And finally, pre-approval access helps the company to get earlier approval for their preparation and to be earlier on the market. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that in the past, clinical trials were the only way for the patient to get new or investigational drug, but sometimes clinical trials can disturb patients because they are time-consuming, expensive, and not every patient meets eligibility criteria to be involved in them. So, based on this, today pre-approval access have opened doors to more possibility for such a group of patients which suffer from life-threatening diseases, and it is the only option for them to be treated in an appropriate way. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. So next we will have a presentation about the management of clinical trials. Our speaker, Nataša Nikolić, has around 10 years of experience working in clinical trials, and for the past 7 years she is working in mid-sized contract research organization worldwide clinical trials. She graduated with the master degree in pharmacy in Belgrade in 2007 and completed academic specialization in pharmaceutical care in 2008, also in Belgrade. Previously, she worked in pharmaceutical company Rašković, other CROs, and a pharmaceutical faculty. And Nataša was also active during students in EPSA and EPSA from 2004 to 2008, and held the position of EPSA chairperson of Students Exchange. So,
Okay, so each and every presentation, I suppose, goes with can you hear me? So, do you have your green and red cards? Most of you? Okay, good. Don't you slipping up there? Do you have a card as well? I know everybody loves to be proactive in the morning, especially after survey night. Okay. So, first of all, thank you, Diego, for pronouncing our surnames and names correctly. I know this is a challenge of the day. And for you guys being here after the survey night, it's the second day of Symposium. So, good job for you. So your challenge is done. And my challenge would be to try to summarize what does it mean to do the management of clinical trials, because 99% of the things that I do, I cannot share with anyone. It's highly confidential, and you're going to hear about it in 10 years from now. If you're living in the US, maybe 2 or 3. If you're living in the European Union, maybe 5. For the Balkan people, I'm sorry, in 10 years from now. So, what you're going to learn, or at least hear, if you're still awake, is how really does this famous clinical trials look like. And I really have to thank you for the topic. I don't want to sound like an art and music teacher who says like this is the most important thing that you have to learn during the faculty. But this is a very exciting thing that you can learn during and after the faculty. This is one of the most growing industry, and it's not going to go down. Because each and every ibuprofen or whatever drug that you've ever taken, it has to be tested. And if you are thinking about clinical trials being super dangerous and having a lot of background information, then just have one simple question for you. Would you be taking a drug that was never tested? Only on animals. Good. And of course there's always a couple of green cards, so that's good as well. Thank you. So, before we start, what does the CRO stand for? It can be a Canadian Respect Organization. It can be. So, yes or no? Red or? Okay. Can it be a clinical research organization? Okay. You're sleeping up there, I see that. Then it can be a contract research organization. There you go. And it can be a Canadian real organization. All the questions could be right. I'm not doubting that there has to be somewhere a Canadian real organization. And I'm sure there is a Canadian Respect organization. But what we are working is a contract research organization, meaning that we are contracted by the sponsor to do a clinical trial. So let me go a step back, because I don't know if any of you have anything to do with the clinical trials. So can you just let me know if any of you were in a clinical trial as a participant? So that's a good thing. You were not, meaning you're too young. There are some yeses. Any of you were a caregiver in a clinical trial, meaning some of your family and friends were in a clinical trial. There you go, yeah. But you, of course, have heard about the clinical trial. So what are we going to talk about here? How do we manage this, and what does this really mean? I had a lot of questions from people like, oh, I want to do the clinical trials. I'm so much into the labs, and I want to do the research, and I want to do the paperwork. That's not a clinical trial. We are talking here about the serious business of how to manage if you work in a CRO, meaning if you are managing a clinical trial. So this is the essential vocabulary that you need to absorb when you begin to work. And usually when somebody starts to work in a CRO, you're feeling like an alien because none of the vocabulary you're familiar with. Everybody talks in acronyms, and there's those very frequent sentences like you have to finish this end of the business, end of the day, for your information, for your action, and etc. But the essence this is how everything started. And I presume that you maybe already heard this during the faculty, or at least yesterday during the symposium. We have a very short time to act. You are all aware what is a patent. So when the substance is registered, meaning that there's somebody put a patent on it, we have a very limited time. And if I tell you 10 years, you're going to say, where I'm going to be in 10 years from now. But the pharmaceutical company needs to think where they're going to be in 10 years from now. And they have a huge investment in the drug. And we call it IP, investigational product, because it's not licensed. It's not licensed that dose or that shape, meaning the pharmaceutical shape, maybe not that subpopulation, or maybe not for that diagnose or the subdiagnose. And this is how it looks like. In order to get approved, first it's going to be approved in the United States by the FDA, because they're the fastest in the regulatory, then comes EMEA, and then the rest of the countries are following, usually with the national requirements. So, this is how much it takes for the pharmaceutical company to get tested and get their money back. By their getting money back, it means that they need to go and pay all the research people being in the trial, all the market people being in the trial, all the doctors being in the trial, all the reimbursement of the subject being in the trial. So if you're going to ask me how does it cost, again, I cannot share that with you. It's very costly. So this is how it looks like in short. We are given by the sponsor the protocol. So let me go step back. Don't you get any illusions when I say sponsor. I'm in a client, I'm in a pharmaceutical company. That's how we call them in clinical trials. We call them sponsors. So don't you get wrong there. So the sponsor is giving it a protocol. What is a protocol? That is a Bible how we're going to work. There is a difference how the protocol in the clinical trial looks like and the protocol treatment in the daily practice looks like. So there's very, very strict rules how the clinical trial looks like. So there's, like, for instance, 10 visits for the subject. We exactly know what they're going to do during that visit. How many blood is going to be drawn? Is there going to be ECG involved? How many physical examinations are going to be involved? Are there going to be any ratings and scales to be done? And exactly how long this visit will last? Because this is what we need to tell our subjects and our caregivers when they come. As well, they need to know how long we're going to take the IP. If there's any chance, for instance, they're not going to take it, they're not going to get it, because there is, for instance, a double-blind trial. Do you know what is a double-blind? Okay, good. So double-blind does not mean nobody knows anything. It's a very controlled process when the doctor doesn't know if the patient is receiving placebo or the compound that we are investigating or the parallel compound. But it's not randomly being done and like nobody knows what's going on. And then we pick up the best people from the CRO. We pick up the best monitors to go to the field and select the best doctors. Sounds very easy, isn't it? But imagine that you'll be getting, as a, for instance, monitor in our company to investigate what are the best doctors in the world, not in your country, not in your city, in the world, that we can do, for instance, the diagnosis of psychosis in dementia patients. So this is exactly why the pharmaceutical company needs the very best CROs with the very best knowledge, who are going to give them the best doctors, who knows how to treat dementia patients with psychosis. Because you can now think, well, that's easy, I'm going to Google it. I'm going to Google the best hospitals that have a neurology department. Oops. Or, I'm maybe going to Google the best hospitals with a psychiatrist. Oh, no. Maybe I'm going to Google the primary care. Oh, no. Should I maybe go to the private clinic and search for the patients there? Or should I be going to the public hospitals? And that's where the expertise of the CRO people going. We have to know who are the best doctors to treat. So, how simple is it to run a clinical trial? So there you go. For instance, the project manager would be the central role in a clinical trial that is working with so many different departments. So, to simplify it, imagine a wedding and you are organizing the wedding. How simple can that be? Imagine that your client is the bride, Of course, the bride wants the best dress, wants the best space, wants the best candles, the best cake, wants the best guests, wants the best everything. And you as a project manager need to handle the bride. The brides are very gentle, aren't they? And very sometimes, you know, just before the wedding, they are not always on top of the situation. So you need to handle that. So that means you in a CRO need to know which hospitals to contact. You need to know with which regulatory agency we need to work with. Do we have a contact from those regulatory agencies? Do we know what documents we need to submit to them in order to get approval? Oops, there's something called ethics committees and central ethics committees, so we need to know that as well. Then again, there's medical questions. So we need to have a department with people who are dealing with the medical questions. What does it mean, medical questions? Meaning, a subject happens to them in the middle of the night. Somebody needs to pick up the phone, and not only his doctor. So the whole CRO needs to be prepared for all types of questions along with the client, maybe the sponsor. So there's a safety involved there. So we have the whole complete safety department involved. And as well, we have a risk department involved as well. So we have dedicated people who are overviewing, you know, like this executive EPSA. They're all the time writing something and making notes. So that's a risk management. Somebody's overviewing if everything goes okay and anticipating if something can go wrong, like putting the water there, bringing the mic. Somebody needs to anticipate all the time, constantly, in each and every department. So, everybody was asking me, so if I want to do the clinical trials, I'm so super into it, I want to dig in a deep dive on it. So what can I do? I can just be a monitor, or I can just be a clinical trial assistant. I mean, I'm not good with the documents. Can I do something more interesting? So there you go. In a middle-sized CRO, like the one that I'm working with, or the bigger ones, this is the different departments that we have that the person can work. So there's a business development, there's clinical operations, which means being a monitor, contracts, data management, depot. What does it mean, depot? In supplies, logistics. That means that each and every thing that is used in a clinical trial needs to be important in that particular country. For instance, in Serbia, let's say. So if we are using the ECG to measure ECG, right? We're not using any that exists in the world. Because this hospital, for instance, here just around the block has one type of ECG. And in Ukraine, they have the other type of ECG. And in Portugal, they have the third one. So how do we manage that all the data is the same and standardized if everybody's using their own ECG? So, for the clinical trials, we are importing to each and every hospital the ECG, for instance, on the trial. So we want standardized data. Then again, everybody has their own way of doing blood sampling. No, it has to be standardized way because we want the standardized data. We don't want our data to be jeopardized because we want, you know what is an SMPC? So that's a summary of the product characteristics. So that's the white paper that you get with your drug when you open it. So that's instruction how to use the drug. So we are obligated to give you one day, if you're taking the drug, the correct information. So that means that everything needs to be standardized. There's no creativity in clinical trials. Human resources, IT, as well, you can be in a marketing, medical monitoring, project management, pharmacovigilance, regulatory, records management, central planning, and a lot more, like quality assurance. So, what does the work of the CRA means? How this job looks like? What are skills needed? Is any of you on the last year of faculty, or like at the last years of faculty? There you go. So, if it's not on your own, if you're not on your own thinking what to do in your life, then at least your cousins and friends and, I don't know, parents were asking you that and forcing you to answer very, very soon, right? So the CRA would be one of the options. So, that's a clinical research associate, or how we like to call it, constantly running around. And that's maybe the most precise definition you're going to ever get. So what does it mean to work as a clinical research associate? That means that you're a person working in a field, as we say it, meaning you're going to the hospitals and rechecking if the medical data, we call it source documents, the medical charts are really showing that the patient is eligible for the trial. You are our bond to say if the doctors are behaving compliantly. So, therefore, the ethics need to be always in this high standard, because behind those papers and the medical records is a very sick patient, or, as the professor mentioned, a very sick child, or very sick elderly person. You have to be able to adapt to very challenging requirements. So imagine yourself going in a hospital when you need to spend between 6 and 7 hours with a clinical team, meaning with a doctor, with a nurse, with a couple of doctors who are on specialization for 6 hours. You need to verify everything there. So I would say you need to be very, very adaptive, because you're coming as a CRA, you're not coming as a medical representative. That's a very huge difference. So you're not there to sell the drug. You're not there to promote the drug. You're not there to tell them what drug suits the best for the patient. You are there to verify if this patient that was enrolled in the study is eligible. So there's no trick and games. You are there as I would say, a small audit, a small inspection. So there's a challenge. Imagine you coming to the big professor, doctor, mayor of a huge hospital who has tons and tons of experience in the past, and you need to tell him that he's doing something wrong. And this is not by the contract, and he needs to change his behavior. And you're the one who's going to train him. Then you have to have this customer service passion and enthusiasm to work, which I guess goes with every job, and the diligence and attention to details. And this is crucial, for instance, for this type of a job, because you're looking at the data in patient, and you see that for last 10 visits, something is off here. There is no exceptions in the inclusion-exclusion criteria. Patients seem fine, no adverse events occurring. But isn't it odd, at least for you as a pharmacy student, to see the blood pressure always being 135/75? That's like strange. I mean, I can't say that it's not going to happen, but is it strange for 10 months the patient to have the same blood pressure? Yeah, they have antihypertensive medication, but there you see, you have to look beyond what it's written. You have to use the knowledge. So, pay attention in school still. There's a lot of pharmacology, there's a lot of pharmacokinetics, there's a lot of management, a lot of physiology, pathophysiology for you to absorb when you come to the hospital. Of course, the company is going to train you, it's going to give you a lot of things to learn, but still, you need to use your sense of, of normality when you're looking at the data. But again, you cannot be this picky person who cannot, who's like learning one subject for, a year. You need to be fast, focused, and you have to get a big picture. So you cannot lose yourself in the details, like some students have this tendency when they're working for the exam. So you need to have the whole picture in mind. And most of you won't be having an issue with this. My generation has. You have to be a technology savvy. You need to know how to work with technology. I'm not talking about the basic Word, Excel using. I'm talking about being proactive using so many different platforms, because we have so many different, we call it vendors, so many different agencies that are working with us. One vendor, for instance, is just doing the blindness, doing the randomization of the patients. So you, as a CRA, need to know how to log in the system and understand what's heck going on there. You need to know which patient took which drug, and that's all done automatically in the systems. Then you have the different, for instance, system when a hospital, meaning the principal investigator, the main doctor, and the others are entering data in the system. You have to understand that as well. So if you're not a fan of the technology, not a fan of the Excel, and those kind of things, this is something that needs to be worked on. And again, this is a very growing fast industry, very fast. You need to know understanding between urgent and important. That's not the same. As well, managing and planning. So you're not just a messenger. Oh, my pharmaceutical company told me that you need to measure blood pressure in this and this way. No, you're managing the site, meaning the hospital. You're managing the nurses. You need to put them down on the same ground and explain them how to do things. As well as other things. If you are going into this business, there is no problem for you. There is only a challenge for you to overcome. And of course, you're going to be dealing with very, very difficult people on a daily level. So for instance, a CRA can picture a normal day in the office, just doing some reports, doing some notes, just finishing some work. In a matter of 2 hours, this CRA is going to receive approximately 5 to 6 calls from the hospital. And believe me, each and every of these conversations starts with, I need you to steal this emergently. The patient is in a chaos and you have not provided me anything. Then when you're done with these 5 or 6 urgent calls, then you're going to come back and finishing some paperwork. Then you're going to receive between 2 and 3 calls from the customs telling you that the drug cannot come in the country because there is a paper missing and the CRA did not get it. Of course, in between, your boss is going to call you for some normal meetings, your colleague is going to call you to go to lunch, and then, of course, you're going to have your report at the end that you need to finish. Just for you to give you a bit of a sum up, 95% of your day is going to be English conversation. It's going to be written in English, spoken in English. Of course, if you are in office space and you're with your colleagues, of course, you can, speak your native language, but most of your people outside are going, so you're not going to use your local language that much. And there has to be, this sounds silly, right? Self-awareness, but there has to be a self-awareness, meaning you're entered in an industry, you're learning a lot, and the more you learn, the more you think that you have no clue what's going on there. So you need to know who to respect, and you need to know from whom to need to learn. And having in mind that you work with so many different and difficult people, I always advise a sense of humor, if you have it. If you don't have it, don't use it. But if you have it, use it. It's going to be very useful. So, this is how the clinical research associate usually looks like. And there's a very nice post, I think it was on a Facebook, when somebody was explaining how the CRA work looks like. So your mother thinks that you are not eating anything, which is true. Your friends think you're traveling a lot and having fantastic time because you're checked in each and every country. Basically, you're checked in each and every hospital and each and every hotel of that country, but not going around and visiting. So a lot of your friends are going to have the feeling that you're doing some very critical lab work inside of the laboratory from day to night and from night to day. And basically, you'll be doing all of it. So I would say if the topic was how to manage a clinical trial and what means to be a CRA, I would tell you it's a very, if you're a prototype of the person who likes the challenge, likes different setups, you're not fit only to do one type of a work, I would say the CRA will be a perfect solution for you because you have a bits and pieces of everything and you need to be always on top of it, always taking a look of it. There you go, so I do have this slide. So this is how the CRA looks like. So your friends think you're traveling, your mom thinks you're in the lab all the time still and you're not getting out of there. The society means that you're in a gray area, like doing the frauds and something in between. There's this footnote of the contract says something that nobody knows what it is. Your boss thinks, of course, you're sleeping all the time and you need to get improved. You need to do your management and time skills. Okay, this is a subject to think about, what I think that I do and what I actually do. So, with having this said, I would thank you for your attention. I know you're waiting for the coffee break, so that's a challenge. If you have any questions, I'm here. If not, I think there is a panel session. And thank the executive for being present. I know this is a challenge as well. So thank you again, and wish you a great stay in Serbia and even a better night tonight.
Thank you.